Democracy is sometimes messy. We want to preserve the right of the states to
So
make
you
these
are
decisions.
okay with women traveling to another state to get an abortion? That is something that you would like to see preserved in this country?
Oh, look!
Okay.
Yes or no? It's a
Yeah.
Lulu, I'm saying I'm okay with the states making these decisions.
Oh,
Now,
you see that?
You talk about
she
what I'm okay
nailed
with.
him.
In the debate, you were asked to clarify if you believe Trump lost the 2020 election. Do you believe he lost the 2020 election?
I think that Donald Trump and I have both raised a number of issues with the 2020 election, but we're focused on the future. I think there's an obsession here with focusing on 2020. I'm much more worried about what happened after 2020, which is a wide open border, groceries that are unaffordable. And look,
Senator,
Lulu,
yes or no?
Okay.
Did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election?
Let me ask you a question. Is it okay?
Now, let's take a moment here. Why is she pressing him on this? And this is a very good question. And I think we need an answer because he wants to be the vice president of the United States, which means it would be his job in 2028 to certify the winner of that election. So him and his willingness to constitutionally do his fucking job is of the utmost importance here. Utmost importance. Dude, this guy's dangerous.
How long do you think it would take to deport 20 million people? Because President Trump has promised to
Dude,
deport as many
30
people.
years, right? Like,
undocumented people in this country as there are. So,
Good
what
for
does
her.
that timeline look like for you?
Well, I don't think you're going to have to deport every single one of them because a lot of them will actually leave the country willingly if you make it harder for them to work. I think it's certainly reasonable to deport around 1 million people per year in the United States of America. Now, of course, we have 25 million.
dude, 1 million people per year. That is 3,000 a day. That's crazy,
Take
bro.
a long time, 25 years, if my math is correct. But again, I don't think that you have
That's
to deport
nuts.
everybody because if you reestablish some semblance of a reasonable border policy, a lot of those people are going to go home willingly. If you make it harder for American companies to undercut the wages of American workers by hiring illegal labor, a lot of those folks are going to go home.
Dude, yeah, he's full of shit. The fact that he assumes a lot of them have somewhere else to go voluntarily. He's like they're just coming here because it's free and easy, right? They walked, you know what I'm saying? They walked 1,800 miles through Central America and Mexico through the gnarliest terrain for weeks to get to the American border and yeah, no, we're just going to bounce you. Oh yeah, I'm just going to, hop an Uber back to fucking Nicaragua. What is he talking about? Dude, he's treating it like they're going to the fucking 24-hour fitness. And yeah, if you don't let them in, they're just going to go to Bally's. Dude, this guy
Because
is a fucking
if you
idiot.
come into Barack Obama, to his great credit, deported a hell of a lot more people than Kamala Harris has. So you can deport people in this country who are here legally. You
They
just
didn't
have to
like
have the
Barack
political
Obama
willpower to
either.
do it. But if you don't
Newsflash.
do this, Lulu. I mean, what are you're basically saying the United States doesn't have meaningful border policy. I mean, Mexican drug cartels have become the wealthiest criminal organization maybe in the entire world because of what Kamala Harris has done at the border. Not to mention, I'm a big believer.
Dude, he's blaming Kamala Harris, right? The VP of the United States, right? Yes. He's blaming her for the drug cartels having power. Dude, homie is way out there.
social contract in this country. I benefited sometimes from a generous United States government, meaning a generous United States taxpayer that made it possible for us to afford things that we wouldn't have always been able to afford. So when you bring in millions upon millions of people, you degrade and destroy the social trust that's necessary to support any kind of a modern support for poor people, food assistance, housing assistance.
Dude, they don't believe in any of this shit, though. The Republican Party has never voted for food assistance, financial assistance, right? What is he talking about? The Republican Party, look at his face, too. I want to fucking slap the shit out of his face. I want to do one of those slapping contests on his dumb ass. What is he even talking about? The Republican Party has never been for any of those social safety net things. They've voted against them always for the last 50 years of my life.
There is a housing crisis, is that not enough houses have been built.
And that we have 25 million people who shouldn't be here.
Well, I mean, this is the thing. I
think it's both.
I know you do. I don't think that many people who look into this agree with you, but about a third of the construction workforce in this country is Hispanic. Of those, a large portion are undocumented. So how do you propose to build all the housing necessary that we need in this country by removing all the people who are working in construction?
Well, I think it's a fair question because we know that back in the 1960s when we had very low levels of illegal immigration, Americans didn't buy houses.
It's a great question.
Didn't build houses. But of course they did. And I'm being sarcastic, of course, in service of a point, Lulu, the assumption that because a large number of home builders now are using undocumented labor, that's the only way to build homes. I think, again,
the country is much bigger. The need is much bigger. I mean, I'm not arguing in favor of illegal immigration. I'm asking how you would deal with the knock-on effect of your proposal to remove millions of people who...
Right, and have millions of job availabilities. I mean, there are other aspects about this because it's not just with construction, it's with farming, it's in food processing, or even in their discussions about, dismantling government agencies. The U.S. government has 3 million employees, and Donald Trump and JD Vance and Vivek and all these right-wing ghouls talk about how they're going to cut half the employees. But what would happen to the U.S. economy if all of a sudden 1.5 million people were unemployed from the U.S. government? What would that look like? And then what if 6 months later they had to dip into their fucking pensions? I mean, those people aren't going to go out and become home builders. You know what I'm saying? A guy who worked an office job in HHS isn't going to go out and start being a fucking trim carpenter. Dude, they're so dumb. She's owning him right here.
I mean, I'm not arguing in favor of illegal immigration. I'm asking how you would deal with the knock-on effect of your proposal to remove millions of people who work in a critical part of the economy.
Well, I think that what you would do
is
pay
$70 for a piece of fruit.
7 million prime-age men who have dropped out of the labor force, and you have a smaller number of women, but still millions of women prime-age who have dropped out of the labor force. You absolutely could re-engage folks into the American labor market.
Yeah, but again, though, JD Vance, this is not like giving somebody a cashier job. Construction is a highly skilled artisan scenario. That's one of the reasons why those workers from Mexico are so valuable. They're really good with concrete. A guy who's been doing concrete for 20 years in Mexico comes to the U.S., he has great value. If you have some guy who's disengaged from the workforce, you can't turn him into a concrete artisan, right? Hey, we're going to just have you go start building homes. Come on, bro. It's unrealistic. Anybody who's done home construction, who has worked on their own home, knows that the guys that do that work are fucking artisans, bro. They are artisans. They are. Dude, drywallers, concrete guys, dude, they are fucking skilled craftsmen. You can't just join the workforce and start laying drywall, you know what I mean, or tile. Yeah, no, this is insane, bro. This is insane.
Women prime age who have dropped out of the labor force. You absolutely could re-engage folks.
Dude.
Into the American labor market.
And give them 20 years of training?
Work in construction?
Of course you could.
I mean, the unemployment rate is 4.1%. Most people who...
unemployment rate, Lulu, this is important.
But most people who don't work can't work in the regular economy. They're in the military, they're parents, they're sick, they're old. They might not want to work in construction.
The unemployment rate does not count labor force participation dropouts. And again, this is one of the really deranged things.
Labor force participation dropouts are all of a sudden going to become skilled drywallers overnight. Excuse me, what are you doing this weekend? I'm going to become a skilled drywaller. Dude, what is he talking about? He's acting like the people who build homes are unskilled labor. That's what's so problematic about this, is this guy is so out of touch right? He is so out of touch. There's a fundamental issue here, though, that gets left out of this because they have tried to lump the housing crisis with immigration. But the price of housing, depending on where you live, didn't just go up in the last 3 years. Interest rates went up because of worldwide inflation post-pandemic. But the price of housing, it depends on your city, but it happened like 10 years ago. It was 2014 when it spiked. Housing has specifically gone up in big markets because of a restriction of supply, because some people have taken their second units and turned them into Airbnbs. So there's not actually rentable housing. There have been a lot of zoning laws that keep single family homes and won't do apartments in neighborhoods to keep the housing prices high. And then his venture capital buddies have been buying housing en masse, bro. They've been buying huge quantities of housing and then purposely restricting the supply to jack up the prices of it. So this idea, though, that they're trying to blame it on immigrants. Oh, that's why we don't have houses. Dude, that's bullshit, bro.
I want to talk about another big issue when it comes to women and families. And it has been hard to figure out what you and former President Trump would do when it comes to reproductive rights.
Sure.
Trump has said
it's not hard to figure out.
He believes abortion laws should be left up to the states. He sometimes supported a 6-week ban. Sometimes he's not supported a 6-week ban. He supports exceptions for rape and incest. You have previously come out in favor of federal restrictions in your campaign for the Senate, with no exceptions except to save the life of the mother. You said Trump wouldn't sign a national abortion ban.
Lies.
But then he said you, JD Vance, don't really know what he'll do. And in last week's debate, you did try to appear somewhat more moderate on the issue.
It's a lie.
It is all painting, I think, a very confusing picture.
Well, I don't think it should paint a confusing picture. I mean, look, let me just be clear.
Let me sum it up. They want a national abortion ban. They want abortion gone. They want birth control gone because they want more families. Even if people don't want kids, they want to make sure people get kids because they want more white kids in America. They don't want the immigrants coming in and having kids. They want white kids. And they realize that those beliefs are wildly unpopular. Everybody hates them. Women hate them. Even most of the Christians hate them. But they've got to say whatever they can to try and get in power in order to start carrying out their little fucking plans.
Of course, on abortion policy, President Trump's view is leave it to the states. His view is...
And again, even leaving it to the states, though, guys, is bullshit. And I'll tell you why we need federal protection. Because we have already seen, we have seen that the states don't just leave it to the states because they don't just ban abortion in their state. They want to then punish the women if they go out of state. So they want to control what the women in their state do in other states. So they want to exercise federal control over the women in their state. They want to be able to control the women based on what they do elsewhere in the country. No state has the right to do that. If gambling's illegal in your state, they can't arrest you for going to Vegas. Okay, that's bullshit. And number two, though, is there's no reason women should not have the same rights in every part of the country. The fact that some women are going to have less rights than others, like, come on, bro. Like, that's bullshit.
You know, he wants any state to have the 3 exceptions. He cares very, very much about that. And national policy should focus, as I said in the debate, on expanding the optionality. Because again, I knew a lot of young women who had abortions. Almost always it was motivated by this view that that was the only choice really available to them. That if they had had the baby, it would have destroyed their relationships, their family, their education, their career. And I think that we want to be pro-family in the fullest sense of the word. We want to promote more people choosing life. And I say this as a person who...
Again, there he is. We want to promote more people doing it the way we want them to do it.
Wants to encourage young women and young families to choose life. But I think that there has to be...
They are choosing life. They're choosing their life there, JD.
A balance between states that are making their own abortion policies. Of course, California is going to have different policies from Georgia, as we've already seen. And then at the federal government,
it is hard to listen
promoting
to.
and increasing the optionality, the choices available, which is going to make it easier for women to choose life in the first place.
Easier for women to choose life. Like, dude, listen to him, bro. Like, this guy is so toxic. And he tries to, like, pad it, right? Easier for women to choose life. Like, we're doing the women a favor by making it easier for them to choose the thing they don't want to choose, just so they can fulfill his idea of what family and their life needs to look like. And let's be honest, guys, if you go back to the 1950s, women were trapped. Pregnancy has been a way to trap women. Guy meets a woman, he wants to hold on to her. What does he do? He gets her pregnant. Boom, they get married. Then she's tied there. He keeps her pregnant for like 10 years. And then she's locked in. She's not going anywhere. That was literally how men kept their wives. That was what they would do, dude. That was it. Most of the women in the 50s did not even want the life they had. They had dreams. They wanted to go to college. They wanted to do something. They wanted to, like, break out of the mold. And then they got knocked up. And then they were stuck.
Look, you talk about being confused. I never came out for a national abortion ban, no restrictions. What I did, to be clear, in my Senate campaign, is I endorsed the Lindsey Graham bill that had exceptions and that would have, after a threshold, I think it was 15 weeks, said with reasonable exceptions, after 15 weeks, that's a reasonable place to kind of draw the line.
Dude, he's
in a
liar.
podcast, I'm just going to quote here, that you'd like abortion to be illegal nationally. That was on the podcast Very Fine People in 2022.
Dude, here's what JD Vance said in his Senate campaign. I am 100% pro-life and believe that abortion has turned our society into a place where we see children as an inconvenience to be thrown away rather than a blessing to be nurtured. Okay, so he has said here that he regards abortion as the very thing that's ruining the family. Eliminating abortion is first and foremost about protecting the unborn, but it's also about making our society more pro-child and more pro-family. One that prioritizes family and the sanctity of all life, except when it comes to passing gun laws or providing access to health care or providing paid family leave or providing, money for poor kids or school lunches, or any other program that actually benefits children. You like the sanctity of all life until it's born, and then you're like, you're on your own, bootstrap it.
What all Republicans should have learned is when you see people voting, sometimes even people who describe themselves as pro-life, voting for increased access to abortion, the conclusion that we should take from that is we've lost the trust of the American people.
Did you see what he just said there? Even people who are pro-life want to preserve access to abortion. And he's saying they've lost the trust of the American people. And it's like, no, dude, women don't want to be controlled. Even if they're pro-life, JD, you stupid. They don't want you and your fucking cock-knocking venture capitalist buddies telling them what they can and can't do with their uteruses. Like, read the room, bitch. It's not about you losing the trust. It's the fact that you're trying to pass wildly unpopular shit that nobody fucking wants except you religious freaks. Dude, he's such a fucking smarmy piece of shit,
the way that you're going to do
that
in 2024 in the United States of America is to let the states determine their own abortion policy?
No, that is incorrect, because that makes women in America not on an even playing field. And also, we've already seen the states are abusive of this. When the people vote to put something on the ballot, the states try to overturn the will of the voters. We've seen it in multiple states, and they want to prosecute women for what they do in other states. So, you, JD, and your abortion bullshit, and let's get ready to send these motherfuckers packing in a couple weeks.
Part of that is protecting the ability of the states to make these decisions. Kamala Harris wants to renationalize the abortion conversation.
Absolutely.
Go in the exact opposite direction. President Trump are saying yes. President Trump and I are saying yes. Sometimes these issues are messy. Sometimes it's going to be a little unusual for, say, California to have a different abortion policy than Alabama, but democracy is sometimes messy. We want to preserve the right of the states to make these decisions.
So you are okay with women traveling to another state to get an abortion? That is something that you would like to see preserved in this country?
Oh, look!
Okay.
Yes or no? It's a
yeah.
Lulu, I'm saying I'm okay with the states making these decisions.
Oh, you see that?
You talk about
she
what I'm
nailed
okay with.
him.
Do I think that the voters of California are going to enact a more liberal?
See, right there, though, she nailed him. She just outed him. His face said it all, bro. She nailed him right there. Yes, everything he says after this is just cover.
Yes.
You're avoiding the question.
In the debate, you were asked to clarify if you believe Trump lost the 2020 election. Do you believe he lost the 2020 election?
I think that Donald Trump and I have both raised a number of issues with the 2020 election, but we're focused on the future. I think there's an obsession here with focusing on 2020. I'm much more worried about what happened after 2020, which is a wide open border, groceries that are unaffordable. And look,
Senator,
Lulu,
yes or no?
Okay.
Did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election?
Let me ask you a question. Is it okay that big technology companies censored the Hunter Biden laptop story, which independent analysis have said it cost Donald Trump millions of votes?
Senator,
Dude, now he wants to talk about the Hunter Biden laptop story? All right, let's talk about Hillary's emails, nuts. You didn't want to talk about that, right? Russia, Russia, Russia. Hunter, Hunter, Hunter.
yes or no?
Okay.
Did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election?
What a
Let me ask you a
scammer,
question.
bro.
Is it okay that big technology companies censored the Hunter Biden laptop story, which
So now he wants
independent
to
analysis
answer a
has said it
question
cost
with a
Donald Trump
question.
millions of votes?
Senator Vance, I'm going to ask you again. Did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election?
Did big technology companies censor a story that independent studies have suggested would have cost Trump millions of votes?
Senator
that's the
Vance,
question.
I'm going to ask you again. Did Donald Trump lose the 2020
And I've answered
election?
your question with another question. You answer my question and I'll answer yours.
She asked you
I have
first.
asked this question repeatedly. It is something that is very important for the American people to know. There is no proof, legal or otherwise, that Donald Trump did not lose the 2020 election.
You're repeating a slogan rather than engaging with what I'm saying, which is that
Look at
when
him.
our own
He's
technology
shifty, bro.
firms engage in industrial scale censorship,
He
by the way,
is,
backed up by
dude.
the federal government in a way that independent studies suggest
Smarmy.
affect the votes.
Look at
I'm
him.
worried about Americans who feel like there
He's
were problems in
untrustworthy.
2020. I'm not worried about this slogan that people
Oh,
throw.
this
Well,
slogan.
every court case went this way. I'm talking about something very discreet.
So now
A
court
problem
cases,
of
court
censorship
decisions
in
are
this country
slogans.
that I do
So
think
was the overturning of Roe v. Wade, was that a slogan?
Senator, would you have certified the election in 2020? Yes or no?
I've said that I would have voted against certification because of the concern that I just raised. I think that when you have technology companies,
The answer is no.
when you have technology companies censoring Americans at a mass scale in a way that, again,
What happens when you have a
studies have
Supreme
suggested
Court
affect the votes,
censoring
I
their
think it's
fucking
right
wombs
to
there?
protest against that, to criticize that,
Ah.
and that's a totally reasonable thing.
So the answer is no.
Yeah, dude, Senator Vance, you fucking piece of shit. Bro, dude, this guy's dangerous. Dude, he is. This guy is dangerous, man. There's just too many instances of him engaging in that sort of abuser 101 wordplay, refusal to answer questions, answering a question with a question. Just the way he engages is disingenuous, is trying to control the conversation, avoiding the answering of the questions, dodging yes or no answers, always giving these platitudes of like, hey, you know, we look forward and not back. But it's like, yo, bro, you're applying for the job of election certifying guy. And now you're saying if like retroactively after the election happens, you've decided that you think a tech company censored something, you're going to void the election results. Very two-faced and very smarmy. I don't like the abuser 101 use of language. And in particular, though, my parents use the saying, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them the first time. And that's very true with this guy. You could see him wriggling around the questions when he's very obvious. He's very obvious about how he does believe in national control over women's abortion rights, exercised through the state level. Why? Because that allows some of the country to enact his belief system, which is we need more families, whether people want them or not. We want to make them have families. He's done the same thing with immigration. Those Haitians are legal. No, he's decided that they're not legal. So therefore they have no right to be here. And, you know, and he talks about how they're depriving Americans of all this help, but he never votes for any of that help. This guy is like shady, bro. He's shady. And even if you look at him, dude, like if I saw this guy at the park, bro, I'm hiding my fucking kids, boss.